Hello out there. This is one of your Chiro guys, Jeremy Myers, talking to you about a holistic approach to helping gaming addiction. Stick with us right now. Hey everybody, welcome to The Prize Inside. Your host Jeremy Myers is here to talk about a little different subject today. We are going to start adding interesting concepts to that are in today's news on the internet and everything else on how a holistic approach might help these situations. So the one that I came across that I was super interested in, because I can see it coming as a practitioner or chiropractor in general, it's going to have a whole myriad of problems going forward. One of the biggest things is right now, and it will continue to be for a long time, will be gaming. Gaming has gotten so good that there is some major problems. If you think of gaming now, I always think of the perspective when I was in college. That's when the games started getting really good. You could sit for a few hours and play those. The problem was the technology wasn't there to be so good. You still had your eyes couldn't stay focused, I don't think, that long. I'd get a headache just from all those different things. Now they've come up with such detailed gaming that it's almost like watching just regular TV, which as those pixels and everything gets more and more detailed, like more human-like, it's very easy for us to dive into that gaming or the gaming aspect and stay in there for longer. So one of the things that I thought was interesting is, like, as I'm watching this happen, they decided to create a classification. It is in the DSM-5. They actually have they call it internet gaming disorder. And it's kind of interesting in the sense of there's been a few different classifications for an addiction on those things, but the gaming community and guys making that were saying, hey, we're getting scapegoated, by blaming things on the society we have, and really it's not true. Classifications are just one thing. The diagnosis portion of this is kind of crap in a way, in my opinion. You can addict, you can call all kinds of things different disorders. Anything that you do for longer periods of time than another is going to be considered some type of disorder. So where does the line get drawn? And I think it's one of those things where we're going to take it today at a different perspective and then see if it makes sense to you. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is, like, okay, so I'm a holistic guy, so how do I talk about doing this or innovation that comes across, like, where all this technology will keep improving, and then what do we do about it? Well, I can give you the stuff that physiologically is a problem, with the new games. Number one is the length of time. So when you sit in an awkward position for a length of time, texting is another example that hits all people. Those things start causing big problems or big changes to your spine. The new thing is text neck. Text neck is where, instead of your head being between your ears, being between your shoulders, now it's way in front, and that is a huge problem that we need to start addressing, because that leads to, so if you can imagine, like, taking a bowling ball, this is what I like to say in my office, and you put the bowling ball over a stick like this, then the bowling ball is about the same weight, but then you come out here with that same pressure and this weight of the bowling ball here, now you have all kinds of undue stress, and you come in with not only like low back issues, but obviously neck stuff. So your neck issues, headaches, those kind of things are becoming more and more prevalent the more and more we dive into text necking and those kind of things. Gaming, on the other hand, a lot of them are just sitting chronically. And your body doesn't know what to do with signals when you give it mixed signals. So a good example of this is they did a study, it's a while ago. They gave a kid, they put a heart monitor on a kid, and then they took the kid in front of, they started watching him play a video game. One of the video games is like World of Warcraft or something big where there's a lot of excitement within the game, and every time the kid was in a big battle or in the game, the problem was that his heart rate went up. Well, here's the problem with that. So his heart rate went up to the point of it would have been the equivalent of him running a full speed sprint one time around a track at a high school. That's a hard heart rate to get up to. But here's the problem physiologically. If your heart's racing that hard and you're not moving, what does your body do? So it's hearing this signal, run like the wind, Forrest, run, like just get out, right? And then you aren't using those muscles. You're sitting in front of it still. So what they've noticed is we don't know what the total physiological effect is, but you can think it's going to be pretty significant, where it's going to maybe stack on more fat for survival, or it's going to have major issues, implications of, so your body does some interesting things holistically anytime you go in these different imbalances. So one of them is this one. We'll call it, there's sympathetic, and parasympathetic. So sympathetic is your fight or flight. If there's a lion in the room and you do not want to get eaten, you will run. Okay, so your body then distributes places or blood flow, blood flow to these different areas, so that when you're running, you have your muscles have blood flow, your heart does, you got good oxygenation, all those things are happening so that you can get the heck out of the room. The other one is parasympathetic, where it is rest and digest, and that is where you're more peaceful. And so when those happen, then you're able to then the blood supply and all the effort of your body is going to go to things to heal you up. It's going to be your growth or protection. I love one of my favorite teachers of all time, and I hope one day we'll have him on this podcast with me, his name is Bruce Lipton. If you ever look him up, he has some fascinating things. And the story I have is that he actually took over one of our pathology classes in chiropractic school, and we got to just listen to him for a few weeks. It was fantastic. But what he talks about, and the better way to think of this, is your body has two choices. It has growth meaning the cells are thriving, they're growing, it's like a garden, or protection. Protection would be kind of like what a garden would do when the first frost comes. Then it kind of guards, it closes in on itself. I always think of sympathetic and parasympathetic like that. So when you're in a parasympathetic mode, relaxed, balanced, all those kind of things, you get this nice growth process. When you're in a protective mode, when you're in that other one where you're fighting for your life, you don't really care about growing, if that makes sense. So a lot of times I think when we talk in terms of gaming addiction is one of many. In my honest opinion, I think TV addiction, in my older population, it's gambling addiction in the casinos. The casinos know exactly what they're doing as well, they put all kinds of stimulants on your brain, just like a game, an internet game does, or anything else. They're all the same to kind of bring you in. And so a lot of times when you have those type of addictions, I think they all kind of are married to each other. It's one of those where you're addicted to that excitement, but the problem is you're not moving, and so when that happens, you start getting more and more into this thing. And where the more neuropsychology you learn, it just fascinates me in how harmful this stuff could be, as you start building new neural pathways of, instead of you looking at your day, like the story of this one article, this news channel internet blog that I love is called Dig, D-I-G-G. Man, it gets you so many, just on the cutting edge of things. So the article was written really well. But when you have things that are, constantly there, you create these neural pathways that start beginning to, instead of going, man, I got to do the kids' lunch. Oh, now you're thinking your priority list in your brain might be, oh, I got to kill this guy to get to the next level of World of Warcraft. And of course I'm going to do the lunch, so, but the more exciting portion starts to become a non-reality, starts to become more of a thing that you're just chomping at the bit to get to. So it's one of those that I can see major issues with it as we go forward, and it's more on us to start looking at a balanced approach. And so when I was thinking about this one, I was going, man, what's a holistic doctor going to be talking about it? What are you going to say? Don't do it, right? So I go, that's fine. And you can say that about many things. I always laugh about that. Like when people come in, they already know in my office, if you work for me or if you come in with it, if you have a pop, sometimes if I know you well enough, I will grab your pop, go out, dump it in the sink, put water in it, and go, here's your first water for the day. Just because sodas and those kind of things can be very addictive as well. And it's one of those where I struggled with that myself personally back in the days, and man, I could put down 6-7 pops in a day easy, like that issue. But when I changed my perspective, started changing my habits, amazing what that will do for you. And you can actually feel, like in the pop scenario, you can actually feel yourself. If you have some now, it's like, oh, it's not that good, but at the same time, it always tastes delicious going down. I just didn't want to pay the price later at this point. But so one of the things that you can do is you gotta first recognize that it could be a problem. Like if you're not interacting with your loved one, then maybe it's time to say, okay, what if you looked at it holistically, what do we got to do? So in my world, you would probably say, I would look at it at the sphere of a wellness sphere. Okay, so you have this circle, and each part is a piece of the pie. So like when you're looking at your day, you say, okay, I want to do something in the physical to make myself fit, nutritional, spiritual, let's say financial, relationships. That would be a good one. So if you're skipping all these other ones to get to the gaming addiction, did you finish all of those pieces of the wellness wheel? There's many. I'd say there's like 8 or 9. I'm not thinking of them right now, but you can think of what I'm talking about. If you want to make sure your relationships, your physical body is good, your nutrition is amazing, your your spiritual growth is amazing. You know, those kind of things, those mental clarity, you know, all those things have to be right before you'd go play a game where you can kind of just forget about all that stuff. And you can also argue that a little bit of that could be helpful to your brain. That's one reason why your brain enjoys it, because if it's that form of entertainment, it's pretty cool. But it's at the time where it starts to sacrifice something else. It starts to sacrifice many other things, and that's where it becomes a problem, you know. And you see it multiple times. You're seeing it in all facets of life, you know, where kids are spending hours. And the hardest part for me right now is I always hate that we as a society blame the children all the time. It drives me crazy. I'm going, but they're children, you can help them. You can have a discussion with them. You know, like right now, they understand. If I tell my kids this is a bad choice and this is why, then they understand it quite a bit. But it's when my adults start getting into it where they don't have that person going, hey, what's up? Like, why are you just completely interactive with the world now? And so those are the people that I'm the most concerned about, to be honest with you, is the ones that, you know, where it's gotten to a point where they're just disengaging from the world because they want to get into the next level of whatever game they're playing. So it's going to be an interesting thing. There's actual stuff out there that they're actually trying to make it like diagnosis codes and those kind of things where insurance companies would pay for therapy based on these addictions. But I want us to think bigger than that. I think in the holistic world, if you took your day and split it off into all these categories, I try to do that all the time and say, okay, even if you can't hit every one per day, at least your goal, it would be that way. So you can say, all right, did I do something for my physical body today? Did I do some stretching? Did I do some working out at some point? Did you do something for your mental clarity, your mental focus? Did you meditate? Did you do those kind of things? Did you eat well? So if you ate well, that would be fantastic. How about your employment health, like making sure your day was good and focused and doing all those kind of things? How about your relationships? How about those, making sure that, you know, you're interacting with those people? So as you go, did you get to all that stuff? And if you didn't, how can you do it and still game? So going back to the pop analogy, what I tell people all the time is pop is very addictive. Hopefully somebody's watching it where they call it soda. Sorry about that. So being up in the Michigan, we call it pop. So but with the pop, I don't take it out of their diet. It's too big a move. You're talking, if it has some kind of addictive characteristic to it, then it's going to be hard to just go cold turkey. I try to tell people, replace it with other. So drink more water. So instead of saying, here, take away all your pop and you're done. No, I usually say drink 5 8-ounce waters, you know, throughout the day. And once you do that and you still want to pop, there you go, right? Eventually, very few people cannot get through the pop addiction, and I believe that, especially with what I'm going to talk about right now. So the other part to this whole thing is holistic would approach it as knowledge. Okay, so this is going to be a little weird, but in our world now, one of the things that's most powerful in my mind that we have is we have this brain that works beyond our knowing. And with that, sometimes we don't give the people of our world the credit. And I could go on a tangent on this all the time. There's some other addictive chemical substances that if a person knew, if a person just had the power of the knowledge that this was addictive, then I believe they could have halted that. And I believe that with many things. If we get out there and say, hey, listen, gaming, it can be addictive. You just need to watch it, okay? Don't pass judgment. Don't do those things. But just get them on a track to understanding, hey, I am addicted to this. Maybe it's time for me to start tapering down. I think that in and of itself is one of the largest parts of holistic in my mind, is the knowledge of why, or the knowledge of, you know, what it is. You don't want to ever go into, and I think if I can get something out of the prize inside, or then get something out of MYePEAK, it would be this. If our knowledge base grows to the point where we're confident in all the decisions we make in our life, then a lot of little problems start going away. You know, sometimes you can enjoy a gaming concept, you know, like my wife, Dr. Rachel, is hilarious. She's Canadian. So we go up to Christmas time. We went up to New Brunswick, Canada. Shout out. It was so beautiful. But I got to play with a few cousins and nephews this ice hockey game that was epic. And they kicked my butt pretty bad because I'm old now. But man, it was so much fun to just interact that way with them. A lot of adults, you know, we would pass judgment on that, going, oh, that's not for me. But at the same time, that's the world they know. And so you can have these awesome conversations with them. You know, it's just one of those things where, you know, it's just the new world and you have to explore it a little bit. So before we say, you know, these kids and their video games, I laugh at my older generation that comes in and goes, oh, these dang video games. I go, my favorite line is, have you ever played one? Because if you've played one, your little solitaire game that you play hour after hour at home when you're not doing anything, you would be playing these. I promise you that, because these things are more detailed. There's so much more to it that could just be they're a giant. Now the games are such a giant, it's like a movie that never ends. It's like buying a movie and having it last days, and, you know, interaction to them, and you're so like first person in them. Oh man. So I understand, but we can't be afraid of them. We have to understand them, and then that way we can get somewhere. So the thing that I would say that would be my favorite suggestion is write down your day. If you feel like you might be one of those people or know somebody that is, you know, have them write down their day. Are they getting everything, the most out of their day? Not the most out of life, but the most out of their day. And then see if, you know, if they're hitting all these bullet points, then maybe say, hey, listen, gaming is addictive. You just got to make sure you're not playing 4 or 5 hours. One of the biggest things that you see physiologically as well, not only the heart rate thing we talked about, but the lack of sleep. The lack of sleep is insane. Once you get going, the problem is the drive to continuation is there. You know, my wife and I got addicted to Game of Thrones and just play, you know, the Netflix thing, it plays over and over, so it's really hard not to like want to see the next episode. But those are the kind of things that once you learn that, maybe you have to live it a little bit to find out, but we never go to bed at like 11 o'clock, and all of a sudden we're like 11, and then you start having your day go slower, and then you're tired. Oh, it's terrible. So try to live for the best every time, and hopefully we'll be good. So I hope you guys, especially on the prize inside part, enjoyed this. It's just going to be a little off, and then we're going to go back to our principles and interviews and those kind of things as well. But I always want to do a shout out to our sponsor, MYePEAK. MYePEAK is a new YouTube channel that we're creating that will be this you'll get to see my smiling face if you go subscribe to it. It's MYePEAK, and you'll have tons of different insight videos on taking care of your body holistically. So I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day.